Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tavakara Kamala Bare
Square round.
Keshav Bolo Nahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshav Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha
Mahamantra.
Jaya Nasingare 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 Jaya Nasingare Jaya Pralad Mohara Pralad Mohara Pralad Mohara Jaya Pralad Mohara Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Shingare Bhagavan ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki.
Hare Krishna. So thank you everyone for coming to Bhaktivedanta Manor this Sunday afternoon. So if you haven't done so already, there is some prasadam being served in the Haveli. And in the meantime, we'll be having a class on the Nectar of Instruction, one of the Vedic literatures, right here in the temple room. So we encourage everyone to please do stay and attend. The class will be given by Bhakta Prayag. And we'll just be setting up just over here. So please do give us a few minutes to set up. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you all again very soon. Hare Krishna. What were you saying? Round square? What were you saying?
Rhythm should be round, not square. When you play, it's a circle round.
Yeah.
It cannot be like squarish, you know. Music is more like
Dynamic and
a roll.
Yeah.
It's like two. It's more about the kind of mood or vibe, you know. To play kind of.
I was just struggling to stay in beat, so I was just trying to focus on timing.
That's why, because music is more like flowing. If you try to be like too, you know, like then because that's not natural. Music flowing.
I'm not really a musician, so I try my best. I'll try and improve as much as I can.
Just sometimes everything is question of knowledge.
Yeah.
Sometimes the knowledge is not just, you know, this is sophisticated music is such an advanced mathematics which you do in like real time. It's actually mathematics, but you know, like swing to this, you know. There's certain things which. That's why I'm saying sometimes it's easy to rely on the flow instead trying to, you know, put something on top and the music goes. You see,
I'll try and bear in mind.
no, it's already there. You know, the timing is already. The time is Krishna. It's already there. We have to surrender. It's not like we can gonna impose something. It doesn't work like that. Most of the time, music doesn't work because people try to impose it. People follow perfectly. That's how even the leader follows time. Everybody follows. No leaders. Only Krishna is leader. So it's like a mindset. I don't know if it makes sense.
Don't blame me, I didn't.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So everyone attending the class, which will be given by Bhakta Prayag, we kindly request everyone to sit on this side of the temple room so that they can face the speaker and interact and engage with the class today. Thank you very much.
If you can. Jai. Haribol.
If you want to go down or anything like this, then you just press down.
Okay.
You have the best.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you all for joining this afternoon. We'd like to have some discussion before prasadam, which would be served around 2 p.m. So we'll start off with some light kirtan and then we'll get into the discussion. Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. So welcome all this afternoon. Very grateful for all of you spending some time here with us. We're looking to have a discussion on one of the more succinct books that Srila Prabhupada translated. How many of you have heard of the Nectar of Instruction, or otherwise known as Upadeshamrita? Anyone heard? Okay, so a few people in the audience are familiar with the text. So this is actually was written by Rupa Goswami, and we see that in Krishna consciousness there are many other books, many other scriptures that many authors have written. Most people will be familiar with the Bhagavad Gita. Does anyone know how many verses the Bhagavad Gita has? Anyone want to shout out? 18 verses? 1800. Okay, any other takers? 108. Very auspicious. 700. Okay, so the answer is 700. Well done. Then there's the Srimad Bhagavatam, which many others may be familiar with. Does anyone know how many verses there are in Srimad Bhagavatam? It's also known as the Bhagavad Purana. Yes. 18,000. Yeah, very well done. Okay, so we have a scholar, such a young scholar in the audience. And then finally there's the postgraduate study, which we generally read, which is known as the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Any final guesses for the Chaitanya Charitamrita? How many verses? Did somebody say anything? No? 3,000. Okay, any other guesses? Okay, it's actually 9,000 verses. But the book we're reading today, we've got the verse up there, is actually only 11 verses. And it is said that it actually encapsulates all of the philosophy in this small book. So Rupa Goswami wrote this book in the 1500s, so this is more than 500 years ago. And he was one of the youngest looking Goswamis. Just trying to look for a picture. So Srila Prabhupada, who you can see at the back there, he kindly translated the Sanskrit, which Rupa Goswami wrote. And with the translations, he also gave us some understanding of how we can apply the text of the Nectar of Instruction in our daily lives. So overall, if we look at the Nectar of Instruction, in these 11 verses, he talks about, first of all, how we can find a spiritual teacher. So that's the first thing that Rupa Goswami talks about. The second thing, it talks about how to practice yoga. And third, it talks about the state of mind which we should have to practice yoga. So we're at the beginning. This is text number 2. And so this is related to how to practice yoga. So in text 1, which was covered a couple of weeks ago, we started talking about how to find a spiritual teacher and how to recognize who is a good spiritual teacher. And we'll touch upon that today as well. So what we're going to do is recite the Sanskrit together, and then we can also read the translation. Anyone feel inspired to join me in the Sanskrit today? Yeah? Okay, so I'll read one line and you can repeat after me. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha sadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. Okay, would anyone like to try leading that and then we'll all follow? Do you want to do? Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha sadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. Any one person else? That's it? Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha sadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. So we'll just read the translation. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane attachments. So here, Rupa Goswami lists 6 different things that we shouldn't do in order to practice spiritual life. So these are things which are actually harmful for us. So before we have the discussion, we're just going to recite a short prayer to invoke the blessings of the teachers and just offer some gratitude to the teachers who have passed on this knowledge to us. So if you know it, please feel free to recite along. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just to reiterate my thank you for all of you being here, including those who have just joined. So we're going to focus on 2 of these 6 that Rupa Goswami has described. So we're going to first read what Srila Prabhupada has said about these 2 aspects. As you can see, there's a lot that Srila Prabhupada has commented on. Okay, so this is the section that we're going to refer to. So you can read along. Jana Sangha refers to associating with persons not interested in Krishna consciousness. One should strictly avoid such association. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has therefore advised us to live only in the association of Krishna conscious devotees, Bhakta Sane Vasa. One should always engage in the service of the Lord in the association of the Lord's devotees. Association with those engaged in a similar line of business is very conducive to advancement in that business. Consequently, materialistic persons form various associations and clubs to enhance their endeavors. For example, in the business world, we find such institutions as the Stock Exchange and the Chamber of Commerce. Similarly, we have established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to give people an opportunity to associate with those who have not forgotten Krishna. This spiritual association offered by our ISKCON movement is increasing day by day. Many people from different parts of the world are joining this society to awaken their dormant Krishna consciousness. So we'll stop here. We're going to read the next paragraph as well, but we'll just discuss this section first. So the first word that Srila Prabhupada pulls out from Rupa Goswami's text is this word called Jana Sangha. So Sangha means the association, the people that we spend time with. Jana actually has two meanings. The first, it means lower class, so people who are not necessarily helpful to us, both in behavior and in nature. But in general, it refers to those people who are not really interested in spiritual practices. So this is the first thing that we can reflect on in our own lives. Are we conscious who are the people that we're spending time with and how that's actually affecting us? So one may ask the question, how do we build relationships that are actually helpful and conducive to us? The first thing we have to do, any relationship starts with ourselves. If we don't have a healthy relationship with ourselves, we can't have a healthy relationship with other people. And so what does it mean to actually have a healthy relationship with ourselves? We have to introspect. We have to understand who we are, what are our values, what are our beliefs, and what is it that makes up, what is it that constitutes me? And when we understand what is our values, what is our beliefs, what are those things that are my likes and my dislikes, then we can start to understand who is it that I can actually spend time with. Who can I align myself that is like-minded? In the contemporary world, there's a famous quote, some of you may be familiar. It says, "You are the average of the 5 people that you spend most of the time with." So again, it's something that we can reflect on. Who are the 5 closest people that I spend most of my time with? And what does that actually say about me? Because we find most of the time, if we're spending time, just out in the world, people who don't have similar values to us, if you're trying to practice a spiritual life and somebody, wants to spend hours late into the night out in a nightclub, not to say necessarily that's a bad thing, but it's not helpful for spiritual life. So if we're finding ourselves spending time with such kind of people, it's going to harm our spiritual practices. Imagine somebody who's addicted to alcohol, just to give an example, and they're trying to give up drinking alcohol. Now, if they're trying to give up alcohol, it's not conducive for them to spend time near a pub or those people who actually really like drinking alcohol, right? Because that's going to influence them to keep going with that. So that's the power of association. We have to be conscious, who am I spending my time with? It's just like a plant. When a plant is growing, we have to understand what is the things which are beneficial for that plant to grow and flourish. And we sometimes see that when a plant is growing, there'll be weeds. I don't know how many of you cultivate a garden in your homes, but weeds are some of the most pesky things that we have to deal with, and it really can disturb the growth of a plant. So we have to uproot those weeds. And in our lives, those weeds come in the form of people who are not actually helpful for us. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this is another book which has been written by Rupa Goswami, the author of this book. He says, Yasya yat sangati pumso manivat syat satad gunaha. A person takes upon the qualities of the individual he associates with most, just like a crystal takes upon the color of the object that is next to it. So if you imagine a crystal and you place, like a purple color next to it, that crystal will also appear in a similar color. So again, it's just a question, what are the kinds of individuals that we're spending our time with? We have to look for friendships where there's a mutual interest and also a common understanding. Imagine you really like, again, just to give an example, you really like watching the Olympics. The Olympics is on right now. But you have a friend who just wants to be out in nature. Now, you may want to sit in front of a TV and watch the Olympics because that's something you enjoy. But if those around you don't share the same likes, dislikes, beliefs, there's going to be a clash. And when you spend time together, you're going to hate being out in nature and they're going to hate sitting in front of a TV. So that's just a simple example of understanding actually, are the people that I spend time with, do I have like-mindedness? Rupa Goswami further says, Sajatiya saye shnigde sadho sangha svato vare. So he gives 3 examples, 3 things that we have to look out for when we try to understand actually which kind of people I should spend time with. So the first he says is sajatiya. This is the like-mindedness, but the meaning of sajatiya is actually beyond, it goes beyond just like-mindedness. It also talks about similar in mood. So we have to, this is the first kind of criteria of when we understanding who we should spend time with. They should be like-minded and similar in a mood. The second thing he talks about is snigdha. Are these people caring and affectionate towards me? And does it come naturally? Like they don't have to make so much of an effort to be affectionate. So this is the second criteria. Like we should also reflect that when we're giving our association, are we also affectionate to others? Or are we simply doing it out of duty or for the sake of it? And thirdly, we have svato varaha. That is, we should try and find association with people who are slightly further along the spiritual path than us. Because when that happens, then they can actually guide us. When we're going through some kind of challenges, some difficulties, just even sometimes questioning actually, how do I approach a certain situation? If we have, excuse me, if we have people who are able to actually guide us, then we'll actually feel safe and know how to progress in life. But if we're just surrounded by people who, when we are faced with a challenge, they also have no idea how to deal with that, then we'll just feel stuck. But it's important to note, actually, sometimes we may misunderstand this understanding of who may be actually more advanced than us. Because sometimes we tend to gauge people just on externals. So you may see somebody dressed in monk robes or, somebody who's just been at the temple for a long time or, going regularly. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're further along in the spiritual path. We have to be more intelligent to understand, actually, what is the understanding that this person may have. Thank you, brother. Similarly, when we're trying to understand actually who is more intelligent, we shouldn't reject somebody simply on the basis of the externals. So somebody may, just come to temple once in a while, or they may not dress very appropriately, but actually their understanding may be more advanced than the externals show. So the point I'm making is we shouldn't gauge people just based on the external factors. Because when we do that, say we place our faith in somebody who we think is advanced, they will let us down at some point. And then that can break our faith in the practice of Krishna consciousness and also just in general in our spiritual life. So we shouldn't just base it on the external factors that we see ahead of us. Vyasadeva gives us another compass on how to gauge actually what is good association. He says, a person's intelligence may suffer degradation by associating with people in lower states of consciousness. And similarly, one's intelligence is elevated when in the company of saintly people. So again, going back to that question of who are the 5 closest people that you're spending your time with, we can just ask ourselves, are those people actually helping elevate my consciousness, or are they degrading it? That's like a simple litmus test. What is this? And we can't simply gauge that on just one conversation we may have with somebody. Sometimes people are going through some challenges, some distress, and we may think, actually, this person is not very advanced. But we have to gauge over a period of time, in regular conversation, are these people actually helping elevate my consciousness? And we can understand, or let me ask this as a question to the audience. How will I know if interactions that I'm having with a person is actually elevating my consciousness, or is it degrading me? Any thoughts? Sure. Thank you for sharing. So just to repeat for those who may not have heard, we can ask ourselves, is that association actually helping me come closer to my goals, or is it actually taking me further away? Did I hear that? Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a really good gauge actually. We all have different goals, and so that association, is it actually helping me go closer to the goals, or is it taking me further away from that? Any other thoughts on how we can understand whether people we're spending time with are elevating us or degrading us? Say again? Sorry, I can't hear you. Involvement. Intentions. Okay. So, involvement and intention. Yeah? Yeah, so what is the intention behind them actually interacting with you? Yeah, that's a really nice point actually, because again, someone may be well-intentioned, but that may not necessarily come across how they're interacting with us. That's a nice point. So you were going to say something? Offering encouragement and inspiration. Yeah, so that's something that actually naturally elevates us because it encourages us in the pursuit of our goals. Yeah, so these are really nice points. And all very aligned to actually what I was going to share, which is what Vyasadeva says in Srimad Bhagavatam is by interaction with the saintly persons, our attachments can be severed. So can anyone think of any attachments, not necessarily themselves, I'm not asking you to call yourself out, but just any attachments that people in general may have, whether that's a good attachment or something that's not so helpful. But just, generally, what are the things that people are attached to? Attached to? Football. Ah, okay. Yes. Yeah. Football, sports in general. Yeah, definitely. That's such a common thing in our society that people are so attached to. Yeah, really nice point. Career. Yeah, that's another one that a lot of people spend so much time and then neglect other areas in life. Yeah. Perhaps one more? Money. Yeah. One of the most common ones that people are attached to. And so, yeah, we can see that actually we spend so much time on these things, whether it's sports, careers, just the pursuit of money in general. What we may not be aware, so these are kind of gross attachments. We also have subtle attachments. So these are things like I may be attached to, like I said, it may not necessarily come across as bad things, but I may be attached to my family. I may be attached to my home. Things like that. And we may ask, actually, why is that why is that a bad thing? Again, the test we can give ourselves is, if I was to lose this, how would I be affected? Whether that's, say a football team, if they're not playing well, how does it actually affect me? If my career is not going well, if I get fired from my job, how is that going to affect me? If I lose all my money, how is that going to affect me? So we can start to gauge actually where these attachments are not helpful for us. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in 2nd chapter verse 14, Matra sparshashtu konteya shitoshna sukha dukkha daha agama paino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. And in that verse, he basically talks about the changing seasons. And he says, just like the summer and the winter seasons will come and go, similarly, happiness and distress will also come and go. So actually, when we have certain things that purportedly make us happy, like yes, sometimes the sports teams make us happy when they win. Careers, when you're doing really well, that will make us happy. But we should never get too elated by what we have or what we follow or what we believe in. Because to the extent that we are extremely elated when we have these things, to that same extent, we're going to get disappointed when things don't go our way. And so that's just a reflection that we can have for ourselves actually. Am I attached to these possessions that I have, to these relationships that I have? What would happen if I was to lose these things? Because we're in the material world. Everything comes and goes at some point in time. I always say to people, if you're in a happy situation, just wait. There's some distress around the corner. And similarly, if you're going through a really challenging situation, then don't worry. There'll be some happiness that will come your way. And so how to deal with these things? As we heard in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to try and seek out that saintly association in which we'll cut those attachments. And we can understand this from a contemporary perspective as well. There was a famous philosopher named Aristotle, and he says, a person is able to influence others in a positive way on the basis of three things. Those three things are ethos, pathos, and logos. So ethos talks about a person's character. So is that person living by what they're saying? Does this person walk their talk? Because we're in the age of Kali, and the age of Kali is represented by quarrel and hypocrisy. But nobody likes the hypocrite, right? Somebody who says one thing and then does another thing. So where somebody is aligned with what they believe in and they act according to that, that's their ethos. Then we have pathos. That is the ability to actually connect with people on an emotional level, And that's kind of what differentiates us from robots. We're in the age of AI now. But how can we actually appeal when we interact with people to their values, to their beliefs, and that ability to actually ignite their emotions? And finally, logos talks about the ability to concisely explain points. So when we're having interactions, we don't want to just having a conversation which is just absolutely not going anywhere. So that's another thing we can reflect, and it will help us to make a meaningful connection. That logical speech has a lot of power. And what's important to also recognize is when we're trying to understand who should I spend more time with and who should I spend less time with, this is a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's like watering a plant. It's not a one-off, You don't just water a plant and then for the next 2 years expect that it's just going to continue growing. We have to constantly invest in those relationships. It requires regular nurturing. Just like a plant, you will, see how much water is needed, perhaps add a bit of soil, some nutrients, all these things. Similarly, in a relationship, we have to invest. Does this person need, my ear? Does this person need some support? Actually, does the person just need some time together? And again, Rupa Goswami outlines 6 things that we can do to further our relationships with others. he talks about, and these are called the Priti Lakshana. Those things, there's 3 things which we give, 3 things which we receive. So it's a mutual relationship. It's not just about giving, nor is it just about receiving. Those 6 things are giving and receiving prasadam. So spending time with devotees, spending time with people, and sharing food, spiritual food. Then we can give and receive gifts as well. And finally, we can give our ear, and we can also inquire from them, actually, how are things with you, Is there any challenges that you're going through? Is there anything that anything that I can help with? So in this way, we can understand, actually, there's ways that our scriptures outline how we can further our spiritual relationships. And so to kind of sum up this point about association, it is said, show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. So that's how we can understand, actually, to the extent that we invest in those relationships which are nourishing for us and that which will elevate us, to that extent, we are going to get a better future. And then the second paragraph that Srila Prabhupada lists here that we're going to discuss. So we're just going to read Prabhupada's words. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anuvriti commentary that too much endeavor to acquire knowledge on the part of mental speculators or dry philosophers falls within the category of atyahara, collecting more than needed. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam, the endeavor of philosophical speculators to write volumes of books on dry philosophy, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is entirely futile. The work of karmis, who write volumes of books on economic development, also falls within the category of atyahara. Similarly, those who have no desire for Krishna consciousness and who are simply interested in possessing more and more material things, either in the shape of scientific knowledge or monetary gain, are all included under the control of atyahara. So just as a reminder, atyahara, Rupa Goswami listed as the first of these things that we should avoid. And it's talking about this principle of over-collecting or over-endeavoring. Today, like in this section, Prabhupada writes that people are so eager to write books on dry philosophical knowledge. We see it's considered you have made it in the world when you can say you've written a book, or many. We joke that when we introduce speakers sometimes in classes, we say, they've authored, 20 books, 30 books, because it gives some level of credibility that actually perhaps this person is intelligent. I was doing some research whilst preparing for this talk, and I was baffled by how many books there are. Does anybody want to guess how many books currently exist in the world today, as of last year, 2023? Any thoughts? Millions. Billions. Yeah, so it's actually not quite the billions. In terms of printed books, you've got 160 million books that exist. 160 million. The majority of these will never be read, because it's said on average, in 1 year, a person reads 12 books. Now, you may be able to reflect in your own lives. In a year, how many books are you getting through? I know in the last year, I probably couldn't say I finished, even 5. So all this knowledge, all these books exist out there, and people are just writing and writing. But actually, is it actually really helping people? People are obsessed with writing about subject matters which are actually not beneficial to people in the long term. And actually, anything in excess is not a good thing, Just like we may get an amazing meal. Does anybody want to call out a meal that they absolutely love? Paneer. Yeah, such a common one, especially here at the temple. Now, say I gave you one portion of paneer, right? You will really enjoy that portion. And you may say, actually, I want some more. And then I give you a second portion. You'll be like, okay, yeah, this is nice as well. But at this point, you're like, I'm not sure I want some more. And then I offer you a third. Now, you may reluctantly take that third portion of paneer. And if I gave you a fourth and a fifth, you'll start to reject it, right? So in that way, we can understand, too much of even a thing that we may really enjoy in this material world is not a good thing. And social media has actually made it really easy for us to compare with other people. And so there's a sense of competition that I have to have more than what I'm seeing that other people have. We may see someone make an amazing meal. We may feel like I have to make something even better. We may see someone going on a nice holiday. We may feel actually I have to do better than that. And so this is a principle of over-endeavoring. Why can't we just be satisfied with what we have? And it's not just food. We're surrounded, not even surrounded, we're bombarded by things which we can categorize as over-endeavor. So to give some examples of excessive consumption out in the world, can you think of an example of how we may be excessively consuming through our ears? Yeah, so that's actually through the eyes. So you've got Netflix, YouTube, right? For ears, yeah, so there is an element of that. Listening to gossiping. Yeah, that's actually a nice point. Spotify, yes, exactly. That's a really nice one. And you see, again, you've called out one where technology makes it so easy to excessively consume these things. And through our stomach, we have things like Uber Eats, Deliveroo. It just makes it so accessible, and we feel like actually, it's just there at my fingertips. Similarly, our speech, we may excessively consume through WhatsApp, through X, which was formerly known as Twitter, Telegram, all these things. They've just made it like we can just keep talking. It's excessive consumption. And then through every other sense, there's the good old Amazon. Right? How many of us, get a package a day almost? And it's trying to stimulate all these senses in one sense, and it's just excessive consumption. And because everything has become so instant, we feel like we deserve it, we're entitled to it. And, one person may ask, actually, everyone is doing it, so what's the harm in doing it? Like, the whole society is doing it. But we have to become conscious of how we're engaging with these things. So actually, the young gentleman said Spotify. Spotify in itself is not a problem. Neither is YouTube or any other of these tools. We may find useful things, even Amazon. There's some useful things in there, believe it or not. Just as a knife is not bad in itself, it's who is actually using that knife. So in the hands of a surgeon, that knife is an extremely useful tool. But in the hands of a thief, that tool becomes dangerous. So we just have to understand the tools that I'm using, whatever those tools may be, how am I engaging with that tool? Is it being used to help me or to harm? And again, it's just an introspection that we have to do. And so we can try and just reflect, actually, can I reduce my reliance on these electronic means? Technology is so rife. For the ears, can we, instead of listening to Spotify or whatever it is, can we perhaps go and hear a live performance? I don't know how many of you are staying. There's a live concert happening this afternoon with Janavi. For the eyes, can we go watch a performance? There's so many wonderful dramas out there. For the stomach, why not go a bit old-fashioned and cook something? Perhaps experiment something that you may not have tried before. For speech, set up a meeting, set up a catch-up and catch up with somebody face-to-face. There's so much that you can get in that personal interaction. And for all the other senses, can we try and just revert to traditional sensory inputs rather than just relying on technology? There's another verse from something called the Vairagya Shatakam, which says, we do not consume these objects, but these objects consume us. So even just when we think about, we all have these weapons of mass distraction, How many times we think that actually I'm using this phone for a purpose, right? There's so many things that we'll use our phones for, but are you consuming it or is it consuming you? And again, a way we can gauge that is, how many times are you driven by anxiety that my battery will run out? that I don't have network or Wi-Fi, you know? Or, you know, sometimes you'll leave a place and it's like, can I feel my phone? You know, there's so much anxiety driven from it. So again, it's just a reflection we can give ourselves. Am I being consumed by this, or am I actually consuming it in a way that is elevating me? So in the interest of time, we'll pause here, and I'll give you a summary, and then just open up if anybody has any questions or comments. So initially we talked about the principle of Jana Sangha, where I mentioned this principle: you are the average of the 5 people that you most closely associate with. So it's just a reflection for us. Are those people around me, are they elevating me, or are they degrading me? Then we spoke about the 3-step process to find better people in our lives, you know, people that we can associate more with. People who are, first, sajatiya, like-mindedness. Then there should be some caring and natural affection towards us. And also, they hopefully should be further on that spiritual journey so that they can also help and guide us. And now we just spoke about this principle of atyahara, where we're constantly bombarded with excessive consumption in so many different ways. And a lot of that is driven by technology. So it's not the tool that's the problem, but it's about how we engage with that tool. And so can we make it a daily meditation? How am I consuming these things, or am I simply just being consumed by them? And what we have to try and do is just go a little bit old-fashioned. Just stick with some more traditional means of communicating, of hearing, of spending time with people. And that way we can reduce that reliance on technology and put a stop to it consuming us. So thank you all for taking the time to listen. I just want to end with a short verse which says, Yad atra skalitam kinchid vidvamsa purayantu tat Yad atra saushtavam kinchid tad guror eva menahi. So whatever errors are present in this presentation that I've given today, may the learned souls in the audience correct it. And whatever good that you've taken away from this presentation today, it is due to my gurus, not because of me. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any thoughts, anything that you've taken away, anything that didn't make sense, or any questions that you have? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do we... Yeah. Okay, so just to repeat the question, in our workplace, we're not necessarily have the privilege of, saintly association. So how can we cope with that? So again, one example that comes from our scriptures is that we have to engage with people in a way that doesn't impact us. So if you think about it, if you are going to a shop, right? You're not going to spend hours speaking with a shopkeeper, right? You go there, you purchase what you need, and then you come out, right? So in a similar way, when we're interacting with people, whether that's in the workplace or out in the world, we don't engage with them in a way that we are trying to build lasting friendships. Of course, to the extent where they elevate us and they help us further in our goals, to that extent we can engage in those relationships. But actually, it's also said that association means revealing our minds. So in the workplace, are we sharing our deepest hearts, what's there in our heart with these people? Or is it more of a professional relationship? So to the extent that that relationship remains professional, to that extent we're actually protected. It's not going to affect us in a spiritual way. Does that make sense? Thank you for your question. Any other questions, comments? Anything that resonated? Okay, if not, we'll conclude here. And I just want to reiterate my thank you for spending the last 1 hour or so. Prasadam will be served shortly in the Haveli. So I hope you have a wonderful remainder of the afternoon. Hare Krishna.
Rest here.